Welcome to Karaoke Live. Come in and say hi. You know we're gonna have a good time every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Hello everybody and welcome to Back to School Night. Karaoke Live, Friday Night Live. Tonight is all about just going back to school, whether you're ending your semester at college, your summer course isn't about to start a new one, or you're already in school, or it's the start of school, or you're going to school, high school, middle school, elementary, college, whatever you're doing. It's time for back to school. It's back to school season. Tonight we have a great show planned. We're going to wrap up kind of the suicide prevention talks for right now. We're going to talk a little bit about bullying. We're going to have an Aretha Franklin tribute at the end of the night by Barbara Arnwine. And so it's just going to be a really good show. So a lot of more original songs. So thanks for sticking around. And make sure to comment and give this video a like and subscribe. Well, if you know what this is about. If you're not subscribed and you want to know what it's about, just keep on watching and see. Alright, so last week, I don't know how many of you guys heard, but there was a horrific shooting. So I just wanted to start off the show by singing my song, March Into the Voting Booth. And it's also relevant to back to school with all the school shootings that have been going on and everything like that. So I think it's still relevant that we still need to go march to the voting booth. Tuesdays are really primary days, and we just need to get ready for the midterms November 6th. So if you don't like what your lawmakers are doing, or if you think you need stricter gun laws, then you have to get out and vote if you're of age to vote. And if you are of age to vote, and maybe you're still on the fence, hear what your little brothers and sisters and your little friends are saying, the ones that are younger that can't vote. So vote for them if they can't vote yet. So I'm going to start it off with my song, March Into the Voting Booth, an original copyrighted song. So, lawmakers bow their heads again, but we've had enough. We won't let it happen again, we'll rise up. So rise up and vote now, show them how we get down. We've lived through too many disasters, leave thoughts impressed to the pastors. Faith without works is dead, and we're the ones dying. Henry lets you bow your head while there goes another gunman. Walking in while we pray, while we learn. Cons are growing, cities burn. Lawmakers continue doing nothing while we mourn. Thoughts have failed the youth. Now we've gotta flex our power, we gotta show them why we're marching. Rise up and vote now, so much into the voting booth. Say it louder, we've had enough. This time they won't ignore us when we march into the voting booth. Rise up and vote for me because I can't vote yet. Rise up and vote now, it's a future we must protect. Rise up and vote for the issues you care about. Gun control, minimum wage, policing reform, climate change, healthcare that is universal, college that is affordable. If they don't rise up, we will. This November I pledge to vote. Change starts with me. It's time to make a change, cause they say I'm too young. They say I'm uneducated. I guess I'm not too young to die while being educated. They say I'm too young. They say I'm uneducated. I guess I'm not too young to die while being educated. So rise up and vote now, show them how we get down. We've lived through too many disasters, leave thoughts impressed to the pastors. Faith without works is dead, and we're the ones dying. Henry lets you bow your head while there goes another gunman. Walking in while we pray, while we learn. Cons are growing, cities burn. Lawmakers continue doing nothing while we mourn. Thoughts have failed the youth. Now we've gotta flex our power, we gotta show them why we're marching. Rise up and vote now, so much into the voting booth. Say it louder, they can't hear you. NRA plugs their ears with money. I said we gotta flex our power, scream it even louder. Rise up and vote now. We're gonna march on to the voting booth, make them tremble in their boots. They'll know we've had enough. Come November, they won't forget, they'll remember. They didn't listen as we died, they didn't listen as we cried. Bow your head and close your eyes. They said they prayed to man crucified. Tell me, when did Jesus say your gun is worth more than a life? Faith without works is dead, so since you watch us dying, show you we ain't lying. dying. Rise up and vote now, show them how we get down. We've lived through too many disasters, leave thoughts and prayers to the pastors. Faith without works is dead, and we're the ones dying. Henry lets you bow your head while there goes another gunman. Walking in while we pray, while we learn. Concert going, cities burn. Lawmakers continue doing nothing while we mourn. Adults have failed the youth. Now we've gotta flex our power, we gotta show them why we're marching. Rise up and vote now, so much into the voting booth. Rise up and vote now, show them how we get down, marching to the voting booth. That was my song, Marching to the Voting Booth. And I can see your comments on the computer right here. So, my next song, hope you guys like that one. My next song is a new song. This one I saw my biological cousin Felicity. Hey Felicity, if you're watching, who actually inspired this show. Just talking about, she's a nurse in school, so just talking about some, stress and some things that she had going on in nursing school and things like that. And but I know she's getting closer and closer, and I know she's so proud of herself, and like she should be. It's like a great accomplishment to graduate high school, and then that next milestone to graduate college, if you decide to go to college. So that's kind of what inspired this song, because in August 2016, this is my honor society certification for college, but I did get my associates, my diploma. And it was such a great feeling to walk across the stage and just all the hard work and sweat and tears. Like, that's something nobody can take away from you. Like, the stress, the missing out hanging with your friends and stuff. Like, I know it gets hard and it gets hard to maintain, but it's just an accomplishment that nobody can take away from you. No one can say, I did that. Like, maybe they helped you, motivate you to go to school, but nobody put in all the hours, the work that you did. And so it's such a great feeling. And so I really just want to pay tribute to that with my next song for back to school night. All right. Every late night was worth it. I know I earned it. Something no one could take away. And when I look back at what I sacrificed, so I can still have a better life, all that I can say, I'm glad I never gave up. That fear and stress take me up. I don't know what I'm made of. The courage, the heart, every lonely night kept on going away from the edge. Such a proud moment when I graduated college. I'm glad I never gave up. The fear and stress take me up. I don't know what I'm made of. The courage, the heart, every lonely night kept on going away from the edge. Such a proud moment when I graduated college. With a diploma in my hand, no one can tell me who I am. No one can tell me that I can't, because I already have. Walking across that stage with pride, the accomplishments and accolades all mine. And maybe it isn't for everyone. We all got different paths to walk on. But for me it was a lifesaver. For me it was a game changer. I'm glad I never gave up. The fear and stress take me up. And I know what I'm made of. The courage, the heart, every lonely night kept on going away from the edge. Such a proud moment when I graduated college. I'm glad I never gave up. The fear and stress take me up. The courage, and I know what I'm made of. The courage, the heart, every lonely night kept on going away from the edge. Such a proud moment when I graduated college. Trust and believe it wasn't easy. So many distractions going on around me. So many people told me to give up my dreams. So many lies were told on me. Train rides spent doing homework, and only my grades told me I was worth it. So many excuses to give up and not go. But if I had, I would never grow, no. It would have been my greatest regret had I not graduated colors, so I'm glad I never gave up. The fear and stress take me up, and I know what I'm made of. The courage, the heart, every lonely night kept on going away from the edge. Such a proud moment when I graduated college. I'm glad I never gave up. The fear and stress take me up, and I know what I'm made of. The courage, the heart, every lonely night kept on going away from the edge. Such a proud moment when I graduated college. I felt a little braver. To me, my biggest favor. I ignored the noise, focused on the prize. Me and my daughter would have a better life. Now my daughter can be proud, and all the people that believed in me. Thanks for believing in me. I'm glad I never gave up. The fear and stress take me up, and I know what I'm made of. The courage, the heart, every lonely night kept on going away from the edge. Such a proud moment when I graduated college. Oh, I'm glad I never gave up. The fear and stress take me up, and I know what I'm made of. The courage, the heart, every lonely night kept on going away from the edge. Such a proud moment when I graduated college. Such a proud moment when I graduated college. And there you have it. That was my new song. I don't have a name for it yet, but if you think of a name, go ahead and leave a comment, and I will see. So, one of the things I did this week is I went to my Facebook, my Twitter, my Instagram, and I posed the question, what do you think is better? Homeschool or regular private or public school? And so I got some answers, and now I just want to read some of those answers that I got. Some of the best answers that I got. So that's what I'm going to do now. Let's see. We got answers on Instagram and on Facebook. So, people really wanted to define better, but better was really just from their perspective. So, Tony Lawson from Facebook says, depends on the area, I think. And when I asked him to explain further, he said there are really good public schools out there, safety and security. Then you have some schools like in major and poverty-stricken cities where the crime on the streets also resides in the school system. The parents at that time may consider a private school if they can afford it. So he was really just saying it kind of just really depends on the area that you go. Now, I've been homeschooled and in private school, and I was only in public school in like second grade, like first and second grade in like kindergarten, I guess. And so that's what made me pose the question. I want to know what other people's experiences were. And there are also some comments on Instagram as well. So there was also a really good comment on Instagram, which I'm going to look at now. It was on my personal Instagram, and he was actually advocating for homeschool. So I thought it'd be fun to pick a comment that advocated for homeschool and that advocated for public school. If I can get this to work. But, let's see. Alright, there we go. Okay, so I got a comment from, and I can't even be, well, his tag is just kind of like a bunch of numbers. So let's see. It's 69N4PLA4U commented on my Instagram and said homeschool K-12.org, solid curriculum, lots of support, more time to learn the world. Plus, kids get credit for school trips, for cool trips, museums, zoo, etc. And so I followed up and asked him what about the social interactions that a regular school provides, and he said overrated. Plus, there's an entire community globally at your disposal. So what do you guys think? Leave a comment and let me know. Do you guys think that private or public school is better, especially depending on the area, or for the social interactions, or do you think that homeschool is better and that you don't really need all those social interactions because you can possibly get more of it if you're not tied down to a school schedule? So I think that was just like a really fun segment to do. Of course, Justin online my boyfriend, he came up with the concept of doing discussion times and reading some answers on here from social media. So that is what I just did. So pretty soon we're going to have a Aretha Franklin tribute. But in the meantime, I want to talk about, more about suicide. And next week, actually, I'm going to have a very special live interview on suicide prevention ahead of National Suicide Prevention Day, which is September 10th. So tune in next week for sure. It's going to be a special long hour episode. We're going to do the interview at the top of the hour, and it's going to be a really great interview. So I look for my social media for more information on that and who I'll be interviewing. So I just want to touch on last week also. Of course, there was a mass shooting, but there's also news that a little black boy, 9 years old, he came out as gay and was so proud and just loved who he was, and his family was really supportive. And then he went to school and came out of school, and he was bullied so much that he ended up committing suicide at 9 years old. And it's just a tragic story, once again, that just, words hurt and words have meaning. You can lift someone up with your words, or you can tear them down. So choose wisely. And so this song, kind of goes out to him and anybody else to make sure you pay attention to people and their cries for help. And, if someone's being bullied, try to be there for them and try to stand up to the bully, or go talk to someone, encourage them to talk to people, because it really does help if you're struggling to go talk to people. And obviously this kid had support at home, but it was just, online bullying and school bullying. We have to see the same people day after day. Like, when we're older and we move from school, we're like, well, that's not so big. But imagine if you went to work and every day everybody said whatever they wanted to you negatively about you. Like, that would really get to you, because you couldn't even work and do what you're supposed to do if everybody was just coming at you and it was a hostile work environment, and then there was no recourse for you, or you felt that there was none. So, my song, Senseless Tragedies. When a flower blooms in the darkest rooms, does anyone realize how beautiful it is? And when a bright light fades to a dull gray, does anyone remember the light that it once gave? You wanted to travel the world and limitless you, but the world took your soul piece by piece until you were gone too. Your face used to bright and cold hearts, but now you're just a cold and beating heart. And you believed you could face the storm, but the weather ripped you apart. Oh, little boy, I'm sorry no one heard your cries. Oh, little girl, I'm sorry to hear they took your life. You were such a bright force, trying to burn brighter than they'd ever seen. You were a victim of bullies and circumstances. You were an easy target who got no chances. The day they took your life, the world lost your life. So can you be a testament? So the next time someone listens and this never happens again, rest in peace. Senseless tragedies, rest in peace. Senseless tragedies. If you or somebody you know is suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. To speak with someone now, this is an emergency, dial 911. These are senseless tragedies. Suicides are senseless tragedies. So, as you're going back to school, just, remember, make a new friend, talk to people, figure out what they're going through, and try to think from their perspective, because everybody in the world is going through something. Whether it's just all in our minds, it can be very real to us, or whether other people see it and are the perpetrators of it. So, again, next week is going to be, once again, all about suicide prevention ahead of National Suicide Prevention Day. So, about to come up in a couple minutes is Barbara Online. She was on last week, and she will be on again, just giving Aretha Franklin tribute. And I do believe that's her now. So, right back. I got to bust the catch. I'm just making a joke. I guess it fell flat.
I'm like, what?
There you go. You can just sit on the bed.
Okay.
Alright. Let's bring this down. So here's Barbara Online, everybody.
Here.
They're here. Oh no. Hold on. Struggling with life. Alright, there we go. That should work. So, Barbara, thanks for being on again.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be on.
And what have you been doing all day? Because you've been watching something all day today.
Well, it was interesting. I, woke up early, did some things early, took another nap. And then I woke up and I said, oh, Aretha's funeral. I got to turn it on. I missed, hours of it. And I turned on and they were just doing the processional. And I said, oh, we got us a black funeral today. It's going to run late. And sure enough, it did. But, people got to remember that, she had an amazing career. 76 years. 60 professional performing years. Think about that. She performed for over 60 professional years, was winning Grammys and awards for her singing as late as 2017. So, people need to understand that she did something very few artists can do, and that's to endure, decade after decade after decade with big hits. Not just, little, semi-charting songs. She did amazing. There's so many artists who would have given their right arm and leg to be able to have that kind of a career. But also, one thing I love that Clive Davis said about her during the ceremony was how she constantly strived to improve herself. How she was taking classical music lessons in her later years. How she actually took a ballet course in her later years and performed a ballet in her tutu.
Really?
Yes, so Serena, you're not the only one who had a tutu going on, but it was so amazing to hear about her just practicing and working on her art and how much she loved the arts. She loved all the arts, paintings, everything. And it was just, so meaningful to her, and that she loved to talk about the arts and talk about it. So she was, in every word, an artist, but she was also an activist. Oh, that they talk about her activism today. Oh my God. A lot of people don't know it, but she, in the 1980s, when Angela Davis was on the run and was wanted by the FBI and was finally arrested for allegedly, being part of this jail breakout and all the rest of it, and aiding and abetting whatever they were trying to accuse her of, that Aretha Franklin said, I want to put up the money to get her out of jail. And people said, why? She said, because black people aren't free. And as a black woman, I understand what it means to be abandoned and out there by yourself. And I want her to know that she has support. So that was bold. Because remember, people, what you may not know is that a lot of people back then feared Angela Davis because the label communist was put on her. And people, back in those times, the worst two things you could be was a communist or somebody who liked Russians. Well,
that's definitely not the label 2018.
So it's so interesting, because communism was associated with Russia. But but I just want people to know that I was so happy that people talked about how she helped Dr. Martin Luther King, how she helped Jesse Jackson, how she gave checks to the National Action Network and Al Sharpton, how she gave concerts for free to help raise money for racial justice organizations.
She did do a lot of
Oh, she cared about it to the last. I mean, she was asking questions about Black Lives Matters, about police shootings. Up until last year, she was still, her philanthropy was amazing. She was still delivering checks to churches. They actually had the lady, Mrs. Fannie Tyler, come up to the altar today and during the service, and they recognized her because she was the woman who Aretha trusted to take the checks to everybody.
Oh, wow.
And to give the checks. Also, they told the story, another person told the story about how Aretha would call up the newscasters and would say, I just saw that story about the family that got burned out. I just saw that story about the person who was struggling to pay their bills. I need their name because I want to send them a check.
Wow.
She was that kind of philanthropist. But also she was just a lover of life. I mean, I found it amazing. There were two things that I really found amazing. One was that Tyler Perry was there with the entire cast of the haves and have-nots. Oh, my mother would have been delighted because she loves that show. And it turns out that Aretha did too. It was her number one favorite show. So Tyler Perry brought the entire cast, and they all showed up to be there at that funeral. But he told the story of how he met Aretha Franklin. She called him on the phone and said, I want to talk to Medea.
Did you?
And he said to her, Medea is a character. And she's not real, she's a character. And she said, I don't care, I still want to talk to Medea. So he said he then went into his whole Medea impersonation, and that she just cracked up. But that just shows you her love of life. The other thing the other thing that was evident throughout the funeral was those grandchildren. Oh, she had 4 children, all boys. And people, never heard a lot about her sons. And that's because she was a good mom. She, did a good job. She, tended to her kids. They went on to, achieve success in life, do what they could. And what's amazing is her grandchildren were so beautiful. They spoke wonderfully and lovingly of her. I mean, they loved grandma, and then her nieces and nephews talked about auntie. They all talked about how good she was to them, how encouraging, how loving, and this was genuine. I mean, sometimes people get up and they're just doing stuff by rote, but you could tell from the passion and emotion in their voices that she got the millennial generation. She loved the Gen X Zers, that she cared. That this was not a woman who was sitting up there wagging fingers. That she was very much encouraging and loving and into her cooking and, all these other things that people don't think about. But there was just, one other thing I really loved about the service. Not only all the star power. Oh my gosh, there was so much star power there. It could have been like 5 Grammy Award shows. I mean, Shaka Khan and Yolanda Adams and the Winans and oh my God, the Fantasia, performed, and Shirley Caesar, and oh my God, our friend Audrey DuBois Harris, and so many others, and all the celebrities, that were on the stage, all the activists, all the, church members, her beautiful Aretha Franklin choir, all of that. There was just so much star power. Cicely Tyson gave this wonderful adaptation when Mindy sings, and she made it When Aretha Sings, taken from Paul Laurence Dunbar. There was also, Whoopi Goldberg. I mean, you just looked around, and then, of course, President Clinton was there, and there were just the entire, what people would say royalty of the Black church was there. So there was just so much, and so much, power, and so much, every side of her, I think, got some expression, and that you really got a sense of how, amazing not only ambitious and accomplished this woman was, but how generous she was, and how lovely her spirit was, and just how, what a loss. People said that a voice like hers comes once in 1,000 years. And we know that there's a lot of talent in this world. We can think about all the talented people, but let's be clear, a Mozart only comes around so often. There are, realities about how, gifts are given in this world. There are people with good voices. Let's not, there's Jennifer Hudson performed, Jennifer Holiday performed. So, there were people with great voices, but her musicology was just, so amazing. I mean, who else? They called her the song thief. Who else could play a song? They told the story about Otis Redding, who she, respect, and that she had this ability to take a song, to hear it, and to rework it in her mind, and to make it all her own by giving it a whole new, meaning. So they pointed out that in the original Respect, he doesn't spell the word.
Oh, wow.
She did. That was part of her creativity, part of her emphasis. Said that when he heard the song the first time, he said, "What? She took my song." So he recognized that, this was not just, quote, a cover.
Right.
But this was a real performance, and he recognized it. And Carol, King and all the other ones, Natural Woman. I mean, they watched, this woman take their songs and take them to not only national prominence, but international prominence. I mean, this morning, everyone, at Buckingham Palace in England, the Queen had her, her guard, her personal guard, perform Respect. They played, the band came out and played Respect for the entire world to see. Wow. So it just shows you, she had this range for popes and everybody. And everybody talked about that amazing moment that still in music history will go down as one of those moments to be unrivaled. And that was when Pavarotti got sick at the 1999 Grammys and was unable to perform like he was scheduled to perform. And they went to Aretha with 20 minutes before the performance and said, "We understand you know this opera song very well. Would you be willing to perform it?" Mind you, people practice hours when they're going to do a song.
Right.
Practice hours with the band, with the musicians, with the, trying to get their notes right, with people giving them advice and all this. She looked at them and confidently said yes. And she not only sang that song, she knocked it out of the arena. People stood up afterwards who had never really, some of them had never taken her seriously as an artist, and just cried because she was that amazing, because they all understood what she had done. And it made Faith Hill a follower of hers. It made so many people, some of whom we saw today perform, followers of hers, because they were just so overwhelmed by that kind of artistry, because they know they never could have done it.
And when did you become a follower of hers? What does Aretha Franklin mean to you? What is your personal?
Oh my goodness! I would have been 15. Probably, she started singing when she was 14, but I would have probably been, 15 when I first heard her. When she, had the, Respect. I guess I was 14, 15 when I, started hearing her, Do Right Woman, and her albums were big hits. So, I was, 12, whatever, because she's 76, so she's older than I am by more than a decade. But it was just, so amazing to hear her, her songs. And one thing you knew about her songs, there was one thing you knew about Aretha's songs.
What's that?
Is that she sang it from a woman's viewpoint. She wasn't singing about, oh, I gotta suffer. You know, she took that blues, which is all about, suffering and people treating you bad, so on and so on. She took that treating the bad and said, hey, but I'm sorry. We got to do better than this. And so you saw an evolution even in her consciousness as a woman. I mean, respect became not only an anthem for the civil rights movement, for racial justice, but women all over the world saw it as a women's anthem. And so, as this nascent women's movement was really catching fire, she gave it fire. By that, and also, declaring so powerfully that, natural woman, and just, all the things that she did, that was amazing. I mean, she wowed the Pope. She wowed presidents. She performed at Bill Clinton's inauguration. She performed at the White House for Obama. She performed at the Kennedy Center for Obama. She did, so many amazing things. She was just an absolute gift, not only to us, but to the world. One of the people who who gave testimony today at her funeral, that was so moving, said that he was in Paris, and that how people when they think of an artist, they start humming some of their songs. Yeah. And said that he was in a cafe or something, and all of a sudden they started playing one of Aretha's songs as, in tribute, and everybody in the place started singing.
Wow.
Just dropped their forks and spoons and started just singing the song.
Wow.
It just shows you what it's like to be an international icon. The other thing people talked about, and I really loved it, was that when she passed, not one person could point to a scandal and say, well, things would have been better if she hadn't done this, or she hadn't, done that, or she hadn't had a beef with X or Y. Instead, you had young artists talking about how she helped them, how she counseled them, how she advised them about not only, about the industry, but about life, and how she gave people hope. And so, so that was really interesting, because so many artists, when they pass, people say, well, but.
Right.
And I thought it was so funny that Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones tweeted today in her memory, and and did a clip from when they decided to come to for one of their tours in the U.S. and the thing was, come to Detroit or come wherever she was. I believe it was Detroit. And they said, well, come if you play the piano. And she did. So she can rock, okay? Right. She did rap. She did rap, hip hop with artists. There was nothing that she was afraid of. People were afraid of her because it was like, can we keep up with somebody that fantastic? Fantasia talked about how she was afraid to meet her because she was such a powerful, icon at that point. But how when she met her, that the first thing Aretha said was, I'm an admirer of yours. Okay? She didn't expect people to be bowing down. She gave her that uplift and made her know that of her value. So it was just beautiful. I thought that was beautiful. I loved the entire service except for the eulogy. I thought the eulogy was bizarrely, I don't even know what to call it, misogynistic, anti-woke, backwards, homophobic. I thought there was a lot that was wrong with that eulogy. And I was shocked by how bad it was. Because you have all these progressive ministers and everybody. And it was so bad that when Stevie Wonder got up to perform afterwards, because they only had performances afterwards, so nobody could clean up the mess. But, and it was a mess. I mean, A1 mess. And when Stevie Wonder's got up, he actually said, I just want to say that Black lives do matter. Because he took a swipe, the eulogist took a swipe at Black Lives Matter. I mean, so he just, so and one of the other performers did something to once again correct this horribly offbeat, off kilter. It sounded like, as I have tweeted at Barb73.
I was gonna ask. I was like, I know you're live tweeting the whole.
As
the whole
I have
event,
tweeted,
so.
I tweeted about that horrible eulogy. I said it looked like the Trump White House wrote it. It was that bad.
And how can people follow you on Twitter?
Oh, they can follow me at Barb's BARS73.
BARBS.
Oh, BARBS. Thank you. I left out my second
You said
B.
bars, but you were
Yes.
just talking about
Barb's BARBS73. And I am active. Oh, I got that. Oh, they losing their little minds right now. Because I've talked about the misogyny. And, there's a lot of misogyny, anti-women viewpoints in the Black community. Because this guy got up there and talked horrible about unmarried Black women. Talked horrible about how they need to get a man. Talked horrible about all of this. And he, it was just backwards. And he even had the nerve to say, Black folks don't need housing. I said, what? Because he was trying to defend Ben Carson.
And none of that tone really fits a
Right.
Franklin.
It made zero sense.
It's like Madonna.
It made zero sense. I mean, he never said, look at the amazing job she did with her children.
Right.
Look at these. You saw these accomplished, college-educated grandchildren and nieces and nephews that she made possible through her love and her support. You never heard any of that. You just, it was just bizarre. It's like, what are we talking about? You're talking about a woman who was a single mother because of divorce.
Right.
And, and you are deriding Black single mothers? It was bizarre. All I can think of is that he just thought that he was going to use his stage to get his conservative message out. It sounded like if you had invited Clarence Thomas to give the eulogy, this is the eulogy he would have given. This is the one you would have expected. So it was very disappointing that he wrecked what had been a really strong, powerful vibe. I also like the truth telling. I was upset when Governor Rick Snyder from Michigan stood up and talked in light of Flint, Michigan, and the water crisis there. And he's talking about how Aretha Franklin, he actually had the nerve, everybody, to say Aretha Franklin was a natural resource, a Michigan natural resource. And everybody's going like, water!
How many days has Flint been without water?
Oh my God. Woo! Over 1,500 days. And so I was very proud when Judge Mathis stood up. And he said, I know some people are going to think this is inappropriate. He said, but Aretha and I were talking, and one of the last things she asked me about was Flint and about the water crisis, because she had heard somehow about the fact that they had stopped the water distribution. And she was upset about it. And she told Judge Mathis, you got to go. You got to go to Flint and help take care of that situation. This can't happen. This can't be happening to people. Somebody's got to do something. So that just shows you what was on her mind, but also the truth telling.
Yes.
That people weren't all into. Now, some stuff got away. I thought some people got away with a little bit of wrong, and there's some things that happen always. But at the same time, I thought there was so much beauty in the funeral, and the fact that it took that it was not over until almost 7 o'clock. That it took about 8 hours. Well, listen, Rosa Parks' funeral took 8 hours. If you've ever been to Africa, the funerals go for days. They don't just have a one-day funeral or one-day service. It goes for days, and so people get to really celebrate someone's life. So, and that's not, there are other cultures where that happens. So our little, let's rush them into the ground culture isn't necessarily the best. So I was pleased that people gave her due. Pleased.
And you've really given her due here tonight.
Oh, well, so thank you for letting me do it, because I know this is not an artist that you grew up with. It's not an artist that you know much about.
But I knew she had to be honored.
Yes, but can you imagine? They said there were over 100 pink Cadillacs, because one of her hits was riding on the freeway, riding on the freeway in a pink Cadillac. Oh. And so people just lined up over 100 pink Cadillacs leading up to the church. So that was beautiful. It just showed you. And the last thing everybody said,
what's that?
That moved my heart so much, she was Detroit. In fact, they announced that they're going to rename their musical center that is on the river that she loved, and she loved to perform at it. It had the largest performance in its history. Was her performance. They're going to rename it in her honor.
That's great.
Yeah, so that was moving, and I thought it was the most perfect announcement of the day. Now let's get her the gold medal. The Congressional Gold Medal.
Thanks for being on today.
Thank you. You do such a good job. And thanks for everything that you're doing, especially with the suicide awareness and all of your great songwriting. You stand in a good tradition of women like Aretha. Do it.
Thanks. I don't think I could ever compare to her, but
she's the best.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. And I love it that all those artists were willing to stand there and have people say she was the best. Which meant she was better than they were.
Right.
And usually that ego can't take that, but they knew the truth.
They knew the truth.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for being on.
It was my pleasure.
I hope you guys have enjoyed the show tonight. Back to school night. And, I thought that, Aretha Franklin, even though, as Barbara said, I didn't grow up with her, I thought she really did deserve her dues. And I know Barbara knew a lot about her, and I've been watching the service all day, and Aretha Franklin really meant a lot to her. And I know a lot of you, she also meant a lot to. And I also want to say hello to Keith Mon, who's watching and commented hello. So, hey, Keith. I didn't see your comment last week while I was live, but hello to last week, too. And so, don't forget to tune in next week, because we have a really special live interview happening with somebody. And again, watch my social media and subscribe. Subscribe if you liked what you saw. Like the video. And I will see you all next week. So, thanks for all the views, thanks for all the love, thanks for all the comments and that you've done. It's Karaoke Live, I hope you had a good time. Next week is another one. So thanks for all the views, thanks for all the love, thanks for all the comments and that you've done. It's Karaoke Live, I hope you had a good time. Next week is another one. Don't forget to share with your friends. Spread the word, I'm on YouTube now. Deuces. And happy back to schooling.